You're dying. Not from disease, not from age, but from something far more dangerous. You're dying from the inside out, one wasted day at a time. Every morning you wake up promising yourself that today will be different, and every night you fall asleep knowing you lied to yourself again. The great samurai Miyamoto Musashi wrote about a principle that could save your life, but most people will never understand it because they're too comfortable drowning in their own mediocrity. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how Musashi's forgotten teaching can resurrect the warrior that's been suffocating inside you. But first, let me ask you something that will make you uncomfortable. When was the last time you kept a promise to yourself? Musashi spent his entire life studying one thing. Not just swordsmanship, not just strategy, but the art of seeing through illusion. He called it the way of truth, and he understood that the greatest enemy you will ever face isn't standing in front of you with a blade. It's the voice in your head that whispers excuses. It's the part of you that has convinced you that tomorrow will be different without you being different. It's the master of deception that lives inside your own mind. Right now, as you're listening to this, that voice is probably telling you that you don't have time for another self-improvement video, that you've heard all this before, that you're different, that your situation is special, that you have good reasons for why you haven't changed. That voice, that's exactly what Musashi spent his life learning to kill, because he understood something that modern psychology is just beginning to discover. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And the moment you realize this, everything changes. Musashi lived in an era where weakness meant death. There was no safety net, no comfortable couch to fall back on, no endless stream of distractions to numb the pain of an unlived life. Every day was a test of character, and character was measured not by what you said, but by what you did when no one was watching. He developed what he called the 5 rings of truth, 5 principles that would separate the warrior from the pretender, the living from the walking dead. The first ring is the ring of acknowledgement. Musashi taught that you cannot defeat an enemy you refuse to see. Look around you right now. Look at your life with brutal honesty. How many dreams have you abandoned? How many promises have you broken to yourself? How many times have you said, "I'll start tomorrow," and then watched tomorrow turn into next week, next month, next year? The enemy isn't laziness. Laziness is just a symptom. The enemy is self-deception. The story you tell yourself about why you can't, why you won't, why it's not the right time. Most people live their entire lives in a fog of their own making. They wake up, check their phones, drink their coffee, go through the motions, and call it living. But Musashi knew the difference between existing and being alive. He knew that true strength comes from facing reality without the comfort of illusion. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. This moment, this breath, this decision you're making right now about whether to listen to this message or let it bounce off your armor of excuses. The second ring is the ring of decision. Musashi wrote that the sword that hesitates is the sword that breaks. In battle, there is no time for doubt, no luxury of waiting for the perfect moment. You act or you die. Your life right now is that battlefield. Every morning you wake up, you're holding a sword. You can use it to cut through the chains of your own making, or you can set it down and pretend you're not in a fight. But make no mistake, you are in a fight. You're fighting for your soul, for your purpose, for the person you know you could become if you just stopped making excuses. Decision without action is just another form of procrastination. Musashi didn't just decide to become the greatest swordsman in Japan. He walked the path every single day. He trained when he was tired, when he was discouraged, when every muscle in his body screamed for rest. He understood that discipline is not punishment, it's freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of your own weakness, freedom from the prison of your comfort zone, freedom from the slow death of an ordinary life. The third ring is the ring of movement.
Musashi taught that stillness in battle is death. The moment you stop moving forward, you start dying. But here's what most people don't understand. Movement doesn't mean busy work. It doesn't mean filling your day with meaningless tasks that make you feel productive while keeping you exactly where you are. True movement is alignment. It's taking action that moves you closer to who you're meant to become, not who you've been conditioned to be. Think about the last week of your life. How much of your time was spent in true movement versus mere motion? How much energy did you waste scrolling through other people's lives instead of building your own? How many hours did you spend consuming content about success instead of creating your own? Musashi would spend months in solitude, not because he was hiding from the world, but because he was preparing to engage with it more powerfully. He understood that sometimes you have to step away from the noise to hear your own voice. The fourth ring is the ring of persistence. This is where most people fail. They start strong, full of motivation and good intentions. They read the books, they make the plans, they declare their intentions to anyone who will listen.
But Musashi knew that motivation is like fire. It burns bright and hot, but it doesn't last. What lasts is the quiet commitment you make to yourself in the dark moments when no one is watching and no one is cheering. Persistence is not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about showing up consistently, especially when you don't feel like it. It's about understanding that the person you become is shaped not by the big moments, but by the small choices you make when it doesn't seem to matter. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you choose the easy path, you're casting a vote for the person you've always been. Musashi fought over 60 duels and never lost once. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he was the most persistent. He studied every aspect of his craft. He analyzed his mistakes. He refined his technique. He never stopped learning, never stopped growing, never stopped pushing himself beyond his current limitations. He understood that mastery is not a destination, it's a way of traveling. The fifth ring is the ring of truth. This is the most dangerous ring because it requires you to let go of the stories that have kept you safe. The story that you're too old to start over. The story that you don't have what it takes.
The story that your circumstances are too difficult, your past too damaged, your resources too limited. These stories feel true because you've been repeating them for so long that they've become part of your identity. But Musashi taught that identity is not fixed. It's a choice you make every moment of every day. Living in truth means accepting responsibility for your life as it is right now, without blame, without excuses, without the comfortable fiction that someone else is responsible for your happiness. It means looking in the mirror and seeing not the person you wish you were or the person you think you should be, but the person you actually are, and then making a decision about who you want to become. Most people are terrified of this level of honesty because it strips away all their defenses. It forces them to confront the gap between their potential and their reality. But Musashi understood that this gap is not a source of shame, it's a source of power. It's the space where transformation happens. It's the battlefield where you either rise or surrender. Here's what nobody tells you about change. It's not dramatic. It's not a single moment of inspiration that transforms your entire life. Real change happens in the spaces between thoughts, in the pause between stimulus and response, in the quiet moment when you choose to act differently than you have before. Musashi called this the void, the space of infinite possibility that exists when you stop being controlled by your conditioning. You've been conditioned to believe that you need permission to change, that you need the right circumstances, the right resources, the right support system. But Musashi had none of those things. He was born into poverty, orphaned young, and had to fight for everything he achieved. What he had was something more powerful than resources or connections. He had the willingness to face himself without illusion.
The path of the warrior is not about becoming invincible. It's about becoming undeniable. It's about developing such clarity of purpose and consistency of action that your life becomes a statement of your values. When Musashi wrote the Book of Five Rings, he wasn't just sharing fighting techniques, he was sharing a blueprint for living with such integrity that your very existence becomes a work of art. But here's the part that will challenge everything you think you know about yourself. You already have everything you need to begin. Not to succeed, not to achieve some distant goal, but to begin. The breath in your lungs, the strength in your body, the intelligence in your mind, the choice in front of you right now. Musashi didn't wait until he felt ready. He started where he was with what he had, and let the path teach him what he needed to know. The reason most people never change is not because they lack the ability,
It's because they lack the courage to start before they feel ready. They're waiting for inspiration, for motivation, for the perfect plan, for someone else to give them permission. But warriors don't wait for permission. They don't wait for the right feeling. They act from principle, not emotion. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of fear. Right now, your life is sending you a message. The dissatisfaction you feel, the restlessness, the quiet desperation that something is missing, that's not weakness. That's your soul calling you back to the path. That's the warrior inside you refusing to die quietly. That's your true self demanding that you stop settling for a life that feels like slow death. Musashi spent the last years of his life in a cave, writing and reflecting on everything he had learned. He wasn't hiding from the world. He was distilling his experience into wisdom that could outlive him. He understood that the greatest victory is not defeating an external enemy, but conquering the parts of yourself that keep you small, scared, and stuck. The time for preparation is over. The time for planning is over. The time for waiting for the right moment is over. There is only this moment, this choice, this opportunity to step onto the path that leads from who you are to who you could become. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready, now.
Musashi's final teaching was this: the way of the warrior is death. Not physical death, but the death of the false self, the death of the excuses, the death of the comfortable lies that have kept you trapped in a life smaller than your potential. When you let that false self die, what remains is what was always there: the warrior, the one who acts with purpose, who moves with intention, who lives with the fierce clarity that comes from accepting responsibility for your own transformation. Your life is not happening to you. Your life is responding to you. Every choice you make, every action you take, every thought you think is shaping the reality you experience. Musashi understood this, he lived this, and he left us a path to follow, not to become him, but to become ourselves, fully, authentically, powerfully ourselves. The question is not whether you can change. The question is whether you will. The path is here. The choice is yours. The time is now.